Stop the press. There was a media viewing period of practice today. Welcome to My God a Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Pell and I preview Georgia's matchup with Vanderbilt, and we also answer questions from you, our listeners. Be sure to check out store.mygodapodcast.com to see all of our latest merch. As always, remember you can follow us on social media at My God a Podcast. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, 5 stars obviously, and review the show. If you leave us a review, you just might hear it on an upcoming episode. Now, let's join the conversation in progress.
I like how you have your hot rod specs on.
Nice. So you know you're old when you have some trifocals.
You have trifocals? What?
Yeah.
I just have regular old glasses that are frameless glasses.
So these are for when I'm sitting at my computer, mainly. So because if I wear generally I have issues with distance, and so if I wear my regular glasses to the computer, I get a headache. So I got these, and then the eye doctor was like, "Well, but if you're at your computer and you try to look at something far away, then it's going to be blurry." So I've got, middle is for the computer, down is for reading, and the top is for looking away. I only wear them in my office. Like they sit on my desk. So
I was about to say, as long as you don't pull this number where you're talking to someone like this, and then you have to go, yeah.
Right. No, I literally I can't even walk around in these things because if I look at my feet, it wigs me out because it doesn't look right.
Yeah.
So
you're like, what's going on down there?
Yeah, I don't like them. It took me a while to be able to wear them at all, but now I'm used to them now. But like I said, I only wear them at my desk.
That's funny.
So
it has hot rod vibes for sure.
Yeah, I mean they're not rec specs, but
they're definitely not rec specs, but it has vibes.
No, yeah, for sure. All right, I don't know about you. I went back and not the whole thing, but I listened to a little bit of our Vanderbilt game got canceled episode from last season when we recorded the day we found out that Vanderbilt had canceled on us for the second time.
Right.
So this might be kind of surreal for you, but check this out.
I, along with many others, am going to have the Vanderbilt game penciled in for 2021 for sure.
That was the cold open of that episode.
It's JP Inception right now.
So did you have that game still circled? Is this feel the same way?
I still feel the same way. I'm very much in the Logan Booker side of things, where I want Kirby Smart to wake up in the morning and see what the high temperature is and score that many points.
Yes, right. Yes, agreed. Yeah, it's like the most, other than, I feel like, 2 years ago, the last time we played them, it was the season opener, right? So that was a highly anticipated Vanderbilt game just because it was different that we were opening the season with a conference game and not a non-conference game. And it was on the road. So it was it was a big deal of hey, let's go take over Nashville, which we kind of do every time we go there anyway, but we certainly did. But other than that, it's usually just kind of another game on the schedule. But I know a lot of people, and I've seen it a lot on Twitter ever since we turned the page from South Carolina. People are ready for this game, and this is another revenge game for us. And they stole our senior day, and again, I know they canceled. They had their COVID reasons, but they were able to play their last home game for their seniors, and they didn't think it was as important for our seniors. So that still irks me as well. So glad to hear that it's it's still circled on your calendar too.
Yeah, no, I would love to just grind them into nerdy dust, nerdy rich boy dust. So yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's they had all the coaching changes, and obviously we have all of the. I mean, we've talked about Revenge Tour, right? So this is like the next stop on the Revenge Tour. Yeah, I think John was like the biggest margin of victory was like the Cumberland versus Georgia Tech was like 233 to nothing or something like that. Like I would love for us to just beat that.
I've got up the Georgia football history versus Vanderbilt just from GeorgiaDogs.com. Let me think. So the largest margin of victory we've ever had of them over them was actually 48-3. So that's the biggest. Any idea when that was? I'll say it's fairly recent.
What year? 1976.
No, much more recent. When we won 48-3, it was actually it was 2012. So it was that SEC East championship team when Gurley was a freshman with Aaron Murray. Yeah, that was actually our largest margin of victory over Vanderbilt.
Winsipedia has the 1976 game where we beat them 45 to nothing as the largest margin of victory for us versus them.
Oh, interesting. So it's 45 points either way.
Yeah.
So technically, it's a tie.
It's a tie. It's a toss-up. It's a push. We got to push.
I love that. I love that Georgia Dogs and Winsipedia disagreeing with each other. That's like the Georgia Florida series, and like Georgia Tech, like the two schools can't even agree on what the record is. So
right.
I don't believe we have that issue with Vanderbilt as far as I know. So
conversely, Vandy's largest margin of victory is 47 to nothing, according to Winsipedia, from 1901.
So we've got to beat that.
We do need to beat that. That's exactly what I thought, Jim. That's exactly what I thought. We need to grind it out another. Let's see, what's the temperature going to be? 75 degrees. Yeah, 75 to nothing sounds good.
Yeah, I did look that up because I knew I remembered Logan's line as well. So I couldn't remember if it was high or low because it's a high of 75 and actually a low of 54 as of today when I looked it up. So we got a bit of a cold front coming in.
There is going to be a nice. It's actually very refreshing coming up here for the Southeast for sure.
Yeah, and noon kickoff for this one. SEC Network, I believe.
Jim, I don't want to hear about noon kickoffs. I'm a little triggered by the noon kickoffs because we've got another noon kickoff coming down the road. But
so that came out today. The Arkansas game will be at noon. Here's the thing with that. Here's my. All right, I know for us as fans, we don't want that, and that stinks. But the noon ESPN game on actual ESPN, not ESPN2, ESPNU, SEC Network, like that is a big game. It's one of the highest pecking order games, actually, as far as the pecking order of when they slot games. ESPN is, I'm sure, thrilled to have Georgia Arkansas at noon. That's going to make them a lot of money. You've got game day. College game day is going to lead directly into that game, and they're going to be able to hold a lot of viewers from that. So I know, like, we tend to think that noon kickoffs are a slap in the face because of the old Jefferson Pilot days. But as far as like, I don't know, like prestige and et cetera, like it's not like that anymore. Like I know we still remember it that way, but that's not the way it works anymore. And I think as a whole, we're going to have to get used to it, especially when ESPN takes over the main game, right? Because ESPN's about to have full control of the SEC. And so there's going to be even more of this.
That's what I was like kind of bracing myself for, was like, I didn't want to like come out and like poo-poo on everybody's party. Because I was very angry about the noon kickoff too. Because I don't care about all that. All I care about is like a top 15 matchup should be definitely held under the lights for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyway, we can talk about all that later.
Yeah,
maybe there'll be maybe a Hail Mary. Maybe a Hail Mary will get thrown up, but I know it's not going to happen. All right, Vanderbilt.
Yeah. So the personal revenge angle for me, just a reminder, was I was going to go because they canceled on us twice, right? So after it had been postponed, The second time we were going to play, remember, I was going to use a friend of the show, Tim Riley's tickets, because he couldn't come after the reschedule. And so that was going to extend my streak of attending Georgia games. So because of their cancellation, last season was the first time since 1992 that I did not attend any Georgia games, and I blame Vanderbilt. So that is my reasoning for wanting to hit the weather score as well.
Yeah. How about we hit the Cumberland score? How about that?
Right. All for that too. So the other things from the history matchup from Georgia Dogs, I got so all time Georgia obviously has the record 58 wins, 20 losses, and 2 ties. And then away at Vanderbilt, we are 27-12, and looks like both of those 2 ties happened at Vanderbilt. The something I noticed in Georgia's game notes, I thought we could start maybe mentioning, is the official Twitter hashtag for the game is hashtag UGA versus Vandy. So FYI, if you want to tweet during the game, that's the official hashtag.
You know, I've always wondered that. That's good to know, Jim. We should start letting the people on the Twitters know.
Yeah. So UGA versus Vandy is the that's the official one. So we'll see. That's the first time I've ever noticed that on there. It's probably there every week, and I just never notice it. So, I have one trivia question for you.
You got trivia for me? I like trivia. My kids say that I'm the best at trivia, so shoot.
Who is Vanderbilt's head coach?
Gosh darn it.
And I make this trivia because I had to look it up. I was like, wait, who's their coach now?
I have no idea. Idea.
I also need like a Scott Howard pronunciation guide. I'll just say it because we don't need you to have to be on the Googles. But so Clark Leah, I'm assuming is the pronunciation. His last name is spelled Leah. So Clark Leah, he is the head coach of Vanderbilt. He is a Vanderbilt alumnus. So, and I believe he came from Notre Dame. And that's all I got on that.
Okay. Well, welcome. It's his first season, right? As I recall.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. His first season. Yep.
Yeah, because Derek Mason was let go.
Right. Yeah, he was let go during the season last year when we were all told that no one would get fired during the COVID season,
and he ended up at Auburn, right?
Yes, he is at Auburn. I think he's the defensive coordinator at Auburn. I think.
Mm-hmm. No, I thought he was at Auburn, but I wasn't sure what role he had. Anyway, yep. Did not know the coach. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
welcome to the SEC, sir. You get the number 2 team in the country and probably one of the toughest defenses that this school has ever faced.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. I don't think they match up very well with Georgia. Shocking.
You don't think so?
I mean, I don't know. It's tough to say.
You heard it here first, folks. The home of Munsoning is not Munsoning.
Amazing. So I got a couple of things that I got from the game notes. So we talked about that 2019 game. That's the last time we played them. And there are two players on Georgia's current team on offense who actually got their first start at Georgia in that 2019 game. Do you care to guess, or shall I just tell you?
2 players on Georgia's current team got their first start against Vanderbilt in 2019.
They're both on offense, and they're both skill players. So I'll give you that. There's my answer.
I mean, Zeus?
Nope.
Oh, not Zeus.
No, Swift was still here.
Okay. 2019. It's got to be linemen. It's got to be linemen.
I said skill players. Skill players.
Oh, skill players. Yeah, sorry.
One of them you're going to be really... Yes. Kyrus. And from my memory...
The official wide receiver of My God a Podcast.
That's right. The unofficial official.
The unofficially official.
For what I remember, he actually got hurt in that game. Like he started and he was playing pretty well, and I feel like he broke his hand or something, and then ended up missing a couple of games. So he started that game, and then John Fitzpatrick. That was both of them. That was their first start.
John Fitzpatrick. Okay.
So, and then the other thing I got from this is just a fun fact. Georgia is the only team in college football right now that is 3-0, where all three of the opponents that they defeated still have a winning record. So all three of Georgia's opponents are 2-1, meaning all three opponents that Georgia beat have only lost to Georgia thus far. So that was interesting, and that we are the only team like that in college football right now. So
sounds about right. That's probably part of the reason why we're picking up first place votes.
Yeah, true. And then not to be a downer, but this is kind of crazy to think about. The last time we played Vanderbilt, James Coley was the offensive coordinator. my how far we've come since then.
I don't know if you can hear it, but the energy just got sucked out of the room, guys.
Sorry. And, it's funny because I remember thinking after the first drive of that game that because as we've discussed, I was not a Chaney fan either. So I was all thinking Coley was going to do these new things. And I remember the first drive was actually really good. And actually D-Rob caught the first touchdown in that game. And it was oh yeah, we got this new offensive coordinator and now D-Rob's awesome. And then that kind of ended after that drive. I feel the rest of the game was kind of a snoozer. Anyways.
Oh geez. Yeah, no. That's just a speed bump in the coaching career of Kirby Smart and for the rest of us, unfortunately.
Right. That's okay. He corrected it quickly.
I'm pretty sure if Jake Fromm is listening, he's probably just woken up in a cold sweat.
Yeah.
Coley.
So a couple of things, news and notes wise, from Kirby's press conference availability today. So first,
actually listened to this one this time.
Oh, did you? Nice. I listened. I listened to some of it. So he gave an update on Tyke Smith and Darnell Washington. He said that they have not been ruled out for this weekend, and he said that the target for them was always this week or next week. So I still don't know what to think about that. Again, he did not give the Kirby's kiss of death and say that they are hopeful or that he is hopeful they will play. He did not say that. So if I had to guess, though, I'd still think the fact that he added that caveat this week or next, I would still lean next week. That they'd be back for Arkansas, but
I saw you had tweeted that he didn't give the kiss of death of hopeful.
Yeah, so there may actually be a chance, but I would still. I would love it for them to come back this week and get their feet wet against Vanderbilt ahead of Arkansas.
For sure. I would love for them to get some action, even if it was mop up duty, just to see. Let's stress test them a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It would be. I've been saying this for a while now. I think that the two of those guys having Darnell and Kieris. I know you didn't mention Kieris, but I still didn't think that he was 100% in his return this past week. But in my opinion, having Kieris at 100% and having Washington back at 100% is going to be a huge boost for this offense because, as we've seen, Brock Bowers is a handful for every single team that we've played, regardless of who they throw at him. So having Washington out there as another absolute complete mismatch, and having Kieris out there as an absolute hands man, I don't know. I would love to be able to just throw that three-headed monster from the wide receiver / tight end position at a team for once and just see those. That's the thing. We're having such a great season. We've had a phenomenal dream season, really. Other than the Clemson speed bump, we won the game and it didn't feel it didn't feel as close as the score was, right?
Right.
Obviously, it sounds like that, JT was hurt, but so far everything's kind of panned out kind of the way that we thought. It didn't like pan out
Mm-hmm.
exactly how we thought it would pan out because we thought Washington would be more involved. Obviously, he got hurt. It's just impacted things. It's just impacted the vibe of what's been going on. And so having the people back that we thought preseason were going to be like the studs of this team can still happen. I'm just hoping that it happens sooner than later because I have a feeling that we're going to need some of those guys to step up that we haven't seen yet in a tight game, say against an Arkansas, an Auburn, a Florida, or whatever. So
Yep.
I would love to get those guys back to get some reps for sure.
Yeah, and like you said, Kiera's back at 100% because Kirby did also. I mean, he talked about that at some point. I know he said that Kyrgios is probably only running at about 85 to 90% right now.
Well,
he even said he's on 100. So
yeah, and he also said that Burton hasn't been at 100% either. So it's like, golly, guys, like we've been beating the piss out of people, and we're missing 4 of like the best people that we have at full health, and we're still like rocking people's worlds. Can you imagine what this offense is going to do when we have literally every tool in the shed to throw at people? I can't wait.
Yeah, agreed. And then I had been like, when I was editing our South Carolina review, I was like, man, was I being too negative about the defense with pass plays?
The answer is yes.
Well, but see, now Kirby said today, he said, you don't give up long pass plays and win games. So I guess I was channeling Kirby when I was saying that. So I just wanted to call that out.
See, I think that people that are looking at the South Carolina game and looking at the defense specifically and worrying, like all of a sudden we're worrying about the secondary because of one game.
I wouldn't say that I'm worrying. I'm not worrying so much, but it is like
you're Munsoning. It sounds like you're Munsoning, bro.
Well, I mean, it's it's a bit of a weakness. Hey, look, you gotta see these things, you gotta evaluate them, you gotta clean it up. So that's all that. I guess the other
defense we trust, Jim. In the defense we trust.
I agree. I
never forget.
I still do that. The last thing I'll say from the news coming out today was like, stop the press. There was a media viewing period at practice today. Yeah, and all the reporters rejoiced, and everything was good.
I wonder if Logan was there. We need to ask him.
We need to ask him. Yeah. Oh no, he was not because he's in Utah visiting his brother.
Oh, that's right. He was on vacation. Yeah. He missed it.
Yeah. But in that meeting, in the media viewing period, we did find out that George Pickens was running routes. So we don't know what that means.
He's been running routes, I thought.
Yeah, but now they saw it. Now the reporters have seen it, so it's real. It's very different. It's very different. So, anyways, that's all I had. So we can get into the game. Game a bit.
What's the conspiracy theorist? Let's get conspiracy theory on this situation here. Like what,
on Pickens?
No. Why now do they let the media take a peek and only for 6 minutes? Like, can we discuss that briefly?
Yeah, I don't have an answer. Do you have a theory? There's got to be. So clearly there is a reason. I don't know what it is, and I don't have any good ideas either. Like, I wish I had like a good, like, funny reason, but I'm sure there is a reason. Kirby has a reason for everything.
I'm hoping that there's a reason because I have a feeling that they're trying to like throw a wrench into Arkansas's game plan because, to let the media in to see, and then all of a sudden you get all this hype about, Pickens and Washington. It's either that or it's like wag the dog, like, hey boys, look at this shiny thing over here on the corner, but pay no attention to what's going on over there. Like Arian Smith is nowhere to be found, kind of thing.
Maybe it's because we're about to. Well, no, that wouldn't make sense. I'm not even gonna say that. And and I'm racking my brain. Hopefully, it's going to come to me while we're recording. I came up with a theory as to why Stetson played, and I feel like it was really good, but I forgot it.
It sounds amazing, Jim.
I mean, it was. It was.
Sounds amazing.
It was riveting. It was riveting. It was great content, and I totally forgot it. So
what I think would have been awesome is if for the 6 minutes or whatever that they were doing in the media, is that they just let Brock Bowers bomb.
the media's like, this Brock Bowers guy is pretty good. We can't tell that from games.
Yeah.
I do think. So let's get into the offense a bit, or I guess the Georgia offense, and Vanderbilt defense. I would assume it's safe to say that we will not see. Or let me ask you this: is it safe to say that we will not see a 2 series, 1 series, 2 series, 1 series quarterback rotation this week? Because I said we wouldn't last week, and we did. Although I do say because I think clearly it looks like that. I think the consensus that I've heard is that it does appear that was the plan again, was to rotate 2-1-2-1, but with Daniels and Bennett. But then after Daniels started also hot, and then Bennett threw a pick, and then Daniels continued hot, they bailed on the plan, which is good. It's good. At least they adjusted. I don't see why the plan was there in the first place, but what do you think? Do you think they'll do something like that? Do you think they're going to try that again this week?
I don't mind it if there's a plan. Like even if there was a plan there in the first place, what I want to see is that if they throw their plan out there, and for the first series, we're literally carving them up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Like we need to just pivot and say, you know what, to hell with the plan. Let's just ball out and just let the man deal. You know what I mean? Like, when you got a quarterback out there throwing dimes like that, like there's no reason to pull the reins back. It's like, it kind of goes back to, and I think this is what a lot of people don't understand, is that it's triggering when you literally see the offense firing on every single cylinder that we've all wanted it to do. And suddenly it's like, oh yeah, we're going to put in the midget quarterback again. Sorry, Stetson. But like I know who was it who said we're not making midget jokes anymore? Sorry.
I said after he threw 5 touchdowns in a game and is tied for the record for most touchdown passes in a game, no more midget quarterback jokes.
All due respect to the mailman. All due respect to the mailman.
Okay, at least we added the caveat.
We're not here to watch Stetson throw the ball. It's either going to be Beck, Daniels, Beck, or Vandegrift. Like that's what everybody expects, because they're the heralded quarterbacks that literally consensus everyone believes. I mean, I actually looked at this, so I was trying to figure out. Like, I made a comment, like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but JT Daniels is undefeated, and I said that in the context of the UGA, but I think he lost some games at USC, but I couldn't remember. I was going back and I was going back to look and see like what his actual record is. But as I was doing that, I went back and was like, I found an article on USC and I saw all the accolades that this kid had at Mater Day. I was like, geez Louise, this kid was literally like the man in high school.
Yep.
So like, yeah, I mean, when you got a guy like that moving the ball, like why throw a wrench in it with the guy that was a former walk-on, which, no offense to the former walk-ons, but like, that's literally what he came here to do, was to throw the ball. And we took it out of his hands for some reason. I don't get it. I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't get it either. So yeah, I would like to think that there is no planned rotation at all this week, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to predict again that there is not one, but that's more because I guess I'm kind of hoping it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's what I want to see happen.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to see out of our offense, or anything? Is there anything that concerns you about the Vanderbilt defense?
Is there anything that concerns me about the Vanderbilt defense? Well, Jim, considering that they lost to Eastern Tennessee, ETSU, right? Was it?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
Considering that they lost to them and they got blown out by Stanford, I think we should be okay.
Yeah. I was looking to see kind of like stat leaders of the SEC. Like sometimes somebody will sneak up on you and it's like, oh, they've got this guy who has like a lot of sacks or whatever. And I saw nothing of the sort. So Agreed. This is definitely, again, like we talked about last week, it's definitely one of those, just be motivated and focused kind of games. It's going to be about what Georgia does, you know? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I feel like I'm sure Kirby would disagree or whatever, but that's where I feel like the whole like last year comes into play, right? These guys took away our seniors last game. Um, you know, these guys ruined my streak of attending Georgia games. Obviously, the players are fired up about that. You know, and I don't know, that's all it's going to really take. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the other thing we have seen is, with Daniels, right? I mean, he really is truly, he is spreading the ball around to folks.
Yeah.
So I would, like to see that continue. Would like to see the run game take another step forward. And I will give, I know I saw something that Graham Coffey was talking about today. It was from the South Carolina review that he and Josh did on Dog Sports Live, but just
Mm-hmm.
essentially talking about that guard play is really hurting us right now. So I think um, the what stinks there is I think we're really missing Tate Ratledge, and it's
Mm-hmm.
showing. And they had the numbers on basically like which gap the running back is hitting and how much it decreases when they're between the tackles and coming off the guard, as opposed to off tackle or off the tight end. So that was interesting to see. So, will we see a shakeup there? Could we see someone else come in at tackle, at left tackle, and move Salyer back inside the guard? Could we see that? Would that help? This seems like a good game to try that, right? So we'll see. I will be interested to see what the offensive line looks like. Do we run with the same five we've had basically since Ratledge went down, or do we take it with that a little bit? So that'll be something to watch for.
So just to recap. So the perception is that the offensive line is not gelling. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, that basically that the guards are actually like they had examples of where they're like missing their assignments and missing their blocks.
Yeah. Well,
Both,
that was
yeah, and
definitely
like
evident.
and then it's both of them. Both Schaefer and Erickson. So I think what
Schaefer.
Graham was saying was if you get this is harsh, but like if you get one of them off the field and have just one of them still, pick whichever one you feel is better, and then move Salyer. So I'm just gonna pick. So I'm gonna say move Schaefer to right guard, have Salyer at left guard, and then have someone else play left tackle. Truss, for example.
Interesting. Um,
So
so, here's something that as far as the offensive line goes. So things that I've noticed, and this is just my perception. I haven't done the super duper film breakdown that those guys have, obviously, but just watching the games, watching and rewatching, which is not something that I usually do. But I did watch and rewatch the games this year. My perception in doing that, as far as our running game goes, I know that we've missed some plays. I know that some of the offensive linemen have caused some sacks because they totally whiffed on blocks or whatever, didn't pick up or peel off of guys. Okay, that's fine. It hasn't killed us. But what I do think eventually is going to kill us, and what I think that some people have been like looking at is like, okay, I'm worried about the running game.
mhm.
So there's been some certain types of plays, and frankly, it's happened on the passing game too. You and I were texting about this earlier. Like, if JT Daniels never pulled off a naked bootleg again, I would be totally okay with that because it
Yeah,
feels like every single time he runs out naked bootleg, like it ends up being either an incomplete pass, an interception, or like he's just I don't know. He just doesn't look
especially
comfortable
when he's rolling left, because that's what we saw
left.
against South Carolina. It happened
Correct.
and they had guys like right in his face. Yeah, and he was rushed a bit. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So anyway, but from a running game perspective, it seemed like that Zeus, from a percentage numbers, and I say that with a recognition that I saw James Cook. I saw Kendall Milton at times. Cook ran for 26 yards up the middle, a
Yep.
zone read, right? And that was like
Yep.
the patented play that we have here, right?
Yep.
But if it's not zone read and it's just like a regular, I don't know if it's a draw play or if it's just, I don't know, a give. I don't know what it is, but like
Mhm.
I'm not that smart. I'll let those guys do the dissecting on what those plays are. But it just seems like we're what the average Georgia fan would refer to as running it up the gut. Anytime we run it up the gut with anybody other than Zamir White, it usually ends in maybe either a loss or a 2-3 yard gain because someone falls forward 2-3 yards, whatever. Zeus, whenever he hits the hole, it's usually like a 4 or 5 yard gain. It's like one of those like Nick Chubb type scenario games, or like I guess a better example is like Gurley back when Bobo was calling plays. It seemed like every time we ran it, no matter what happened, as soon as Gurley hit the line, he was getting 5 yards. Like no matter what, he was going to fall forward, whatever. Even if it was like a ball of men, he was somehow going to fall forward for 5 yards. That's kind of what it feels like with Zamir White for me. Kenny McIntosh has failed up the middle. James Cook has failed up the middle. I've seen Kendall Milton get some success up the middle, but like, I don't know. Anytime that they're running into that wall of men, it just seems like Zamir White is the only one that has success. Now, on the flip side of that, I feel like that Zeus doesn't have as much success running outside the tackles. Whereas I've seen James Cook and I've seen Kenny McIntosh have great success. Like I would almost say that like that swing pass to Kenny McIntosh might be our most successful running play in the arsenal, because every time he runs out wide and we swing it out to him, he gets like 8 yards. Like I would say just run that play left, run it right, run it left, run it right until they can stop it, because it seems like nobody can really stop it. Every single time I've seen Kenny run a swing pass wide, it's always a successful play.
Yeah, I think there's like, I could grab like specific plays to disagree with you, but I do think like in general, yes. Like, and you named one of them, right? Like Cook's touchdown against South Carolina.
But that wasn't a quote unquote.
Okay, because you're saying that was an actual zone read, which it was, by the way. That was an inside zone read from what I saw. Yeah. Okay. So UAB, I don't know either. Like I know he ran at the middle, but that was like he completely made something out of nothing. And I think that's what gets to the guard play, right? Is like what we're seeing is there's rarely has there even been a crease when we're going up the gut, and that's where Zamir White's power comes into play there, right? In the making something out of nothing. Yeah, but same thing with Cook. I mean, I still don't know how he scored that touchdown against UAB. I mean, he had like three guys right in front of him and completely stopped and then bounced it outside. So, but yeah, no, I'm with you.
I guess I
do wonder like what would happen if we let one of those guys like pick someone,
just be the guy
and let them get into a rhythm. I do wonder what would happen. Like if Zamir White got like what I would used to call like starting running back carries. I know we don't really do that, but what would that look like?
So I think the problem with that is that Zeus hasn't exactly shown like the best ability to catch the ball, right? So like,
we'll pick one. Then say James Cook. Then let's say or pick two. Like so, and I read this somewhere today. I'm going to assume it was Seth Emerson because I read one of his articles today, because he was saying like so think to 2017, right, or 2017 and 2018. I think those are the best offenses prior to this year in the Kirby Smart era. You would agree with that, right? 17 and 18. And in both of those years, we had two backs. They were the primary back, and then a third back who would get used a little bit. And then, there were other guys in the team, but they would come in pretty late. So in 17, you had Chubb and Michelle, right? They were 1A and 1B. And then you had Swift, who was the third guy. We had Holyfield come in occasionally, but hardly at all. And Harrion didn't really see the field a whole lot at running back in 17. And then, in 18, it was Swift and Holyfield, right? Like that was 1A and 1B. And those two guys got the lion's share of the carries. And then occasionally Harrion, he was kind of the Swift of 17. So like, I don't know, what would it be like if we had that? The guys are running in and out like every, like play by play almost. Like a lot of the times they're coming in for one play. That's got to be hard on them to find any kind of rhythm. I wonder. I don't know. I would assume it's going to be the same this week. We're still going to see that rotation.
So if we're going off of sheer production, we have a 1A and 1B. It's Zamir White and Kendall Milton. If you're going
Okay.
off of sheer carries, it's Zamir White and Kendall Milton. So Zamir White has 28 carries, 159 yards. Kendall Milton has 24 carries, 119 yards.
But like
James
28.
Cook,
Go ahead.
I was going to say James Cook doesn't have the next closest is James Cook, and he has 10 less carries than Kendall Milton. That's largely due to the fact because James Cook and Kenny McIntosh are both used very heavily in the receiving game. So Kenny McIntosh has been targeted 5 times from a receiver standpoint. James Cook has been targeted. Not targeted. Kenny McIntosh has 5 receptions. James Cook has 8 receptions. So they're getting their touches in the passing game, which goes back to my point that Kenny McIntosh has been very deadly. And I think that this is, I truly believe that this is like Monken basically identifying the strengths and weaknesses of the people that he has at his disposal and recognizing that there are weapons and ways that they can be utilized. And so I think that he's just trying to utilize them that way.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. I guess like this is me being very get off my lawn. I'm like, you're like, Zamir White, he is getting line share carries. He's got 28 carries. I'm like, 28 carries in 3 games. You should have that in 1 game.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, I don't know.
I mean, Noshan used to get that, right? Noshan, like 28 carries.
That's true. However, you got guys
ball
like
hey, what did Herschel say? Ball ain't heavy.
That ball ain't heavy. Father of Ballers made a comment recently. I don't know if it was this weekend or recently, but Kendall Milton's dad had something to say about that. He was talking about basically playing time at different schools. Like, why would you go here? Why would you go there? Like, oh, you guys don't have any carries. Like, whatever. I don't. Basically, he was making the point that you need to go somewhere where you can get carries. And his response was basically that, why would you go somewhere where you basically leave school with your head bashed in and your body broken down and all that kind of stuff? So
I saw that.
There's definitely something to be said of the running back by committee because, if we're looking at it, literally on paper, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs that are taking the lion's shares of the carries. Which if you were to total all that up, you're talking, we got 50 plus right there, 60, 70. You're talking about, over 80 carries between 4 backs.
Between the 4 guys.
Like, we've been running the ball quite a bit. That doesn't even include the touches. That doesn't even include the touches that they're getting in the receiving game. But there's definitely been a concerted effort to try to run the ball. And we've, in total, I guess you should probably take out some of these quarterback attempts or whatever, but whatever. Let's just keep all things being equal. 100 carries on rushing, and we're averaging 4.7. That obviously needs to be a little bit better, but when every time you touch the ball from the running back position, you're averaging 5 yards a carry, I'd say that's a win all day long.
Yeah.
And our starters, those 4 guys, and this goes back to my data point about Kenny was his average is only 3.1 yards a carry. He's carried the ball 11 times for 34 yards, and he's averaging 3.1 yards. Kenny is a weapon in the passing game. That's my opinion. I think that's his strength based on what I've seen. James Cook, on the other hand, is both a weapon in the passing game and the running game because he's run the ball for 14 times for 88 yards. He's averaging 6.3 yards a carry, which minus Stetson Bennett's averages or whatever, which are kind of unfair because he only has 2 carries, but he leads the team in average yards per attempt. 6.3 is the high. Kendall Milton and Zamir White are both averaging 5 and 5.7 yards a carry respectively. So basically every single time our main running backs take the ball, they're averaging 5 to 6 yards per touch, which is pretty good. I mean,
It
I
is.
mean, I would say that the average person would take that.
Yeah. I would. I mean, I'd take it. I guess we'll see. My question is more on the offensive line, right? At this
Well, but
point,
that's what
than the
I guess
backs.
that's my point. That's my point. So like, if you're averaging 5, 6 yards a carry, is that really an indication that there's a problem on the offensive line?
Well, here's the thing though, like if you're getting how many of those yards are after contact, and like because the later they get that contact, the better. I mean, you look at what James Cook did with that little bitty crease he had on that inside zone read, and he took it to the house, right? If you give those guys
Well,
a crease, their average is going to go up even more. I mean, how many times are these guys running into an absolute just wall at the line of scrimmage because there's nothing there?
I don't disagree with you. And in fact, that actually like would feed into your point of like there should be the guy. And I think that I mentioned this on the last
Yeah,
one was Zamir White is clearly the guy. He
yeah,
leads the carries, he leads the yards. Every single time he gets hit, I feel like he's knocking people over for an additional 1 to 2, 3 yards. Whereas everybody else, including Kendall Milton, love him. I think he's definitely a running back for the future. But it seems like every time he gets hit, he goes down. James Cook, every time he gets hit, he goes down. Kenny McIntosh, every time he gets hit, he goes down. So to your point, like I do feel like that there is definitely some evidence there on based on how I've seen the games, that there's could be a better push on the offensive line. Although some of these could be on the wide receivers too, because I've seen Fitzpatrick miss on blocks. I've seen Bowers miss on blocks. You saw some of that in the first couple of games where it was like those receivers really need to start holding blocks a little bit better because we are attacking the perimeter with some of those guys. But that said, like, yes, I do feel like that the yards after contact, I don't have that statistic. I'm sure Josh could. We should probably ping him on that and say, hey, can you talk about this? Because I think that it would be
yeah.
relevant for the future. But it does feel like that the yards after contact are definitely limited for everybody with the exception of Zamir Wright, who literally runs over people.
The only thing I got to get you on is, I mean, like Kendall Milton did like end the guy's season by separating his shoulder. So in the Clemson game. So I'm not sure he goes down when he gets touched, but I digress. Let's,
Well, yeah.
let's talk about, let's talk about the defense.
Okay.
We're getting deep already. So I don't have a whole lot to say here because Georgia defense very good. Vanderbilt offense very bad. So Vanderbilt's offense, they are last in the SEC in total yards per game, total points, and points per game. They're dead last in all of those categories in the conference. Georgia is first in the SEC in total yards allowed, first in the SEC in yards per game, second in total points allowed, and second in points per game. So you could not have any more polar opposites than that. Um, they we already talked about that they lost against ETSU. There was a play like I watched the highlights of that game today. There was a total like bless your heart moment when their quarterback was like trying to throw the ball and it just totally fell out of his hand, and ETSU picked it up and ran in for a touchdown. There was a comedy of errors there. So I like as far as the our defense, their offense. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to get pretty ugly.
So, all right. So, I think that we should probably do this as a conversation about the defense with a caveat into some of the predictions.
Okay.
I don't see a world in which Vanderbilt scores an offensive touchdown on the University of Georgia. The only way that they score a touchdown is if we have a mistake, like a muff punt, knock on your head, Jim. An interception, a fumble, something that puts them in a position where they have, 1st and 10 from the Georgia 30 kind of thing, or 1st and 10 from the Georgia 20. Like I just don't see them being able to move the ball on
Yeah.
us unless we're making a mistake. And I don't think that we will make a mistake because I don't think that there's anything that they can throw at us that's going to represent much of a problem. This should really be a get right kind of game in much the same way as we would treat I hate to say it, but an FCS opponent.
Yeah, I mean, this is the least talented team we face. This is the
Yeah.
worst team we've played yet, right? And we've only had one touchdown scored on us thus far, and that was, frankly, we didn't get into this either. I couldn't see it. It didn't look as bad on TV, but in the stadium, I felt like that Carolina receiver pushed off on speed. But whatever. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, I mean, I mean, this is the worst team we've played. I'll just say that. And I don't, and we've only given up one offensive touchdown thus far. I would expect that to continue. I would think that will continue to play out as you would think when you're playing the least talented team we've seen so far.
So from a defensive side of things, the one thing that I did try to identify was, is there a player on this team that I've overlooked? Because I was not expecting that guy Van to bust out, because if you remove him from the game plan, if you remove him from any if you remove him from the game or control him in some way, it's really a significantly worse win or loss for them. So there is a gentleman, his name is Chris Pierce Jr. He is a senior, and he is very much looks like he's going to be a handful from a wide receiver's perspective because he's 6'4", 235.
Yep.
He's averaging 13 yards per reception. He has 14 receptions for 181 yards. He could potentially be a problem because that represents a pretty big mismatch for some of our guys. So if he ends up lining across from speed, or if a linebacker gets on him, that kind of thing. So again, I think that barring some sort of like mishap or mistake of some sort, like we should be fine. But that's definitely a player that I would watch. And if you looked for someone to potentially, bust a long touchdown or a blown coverage or something along those lines, that would be a player that I would identify as someone to look out for.
Shocking, we agree. So I tried to do the same thing, and that was the same guy I identified. So
there you go, Chris Pierce Jr. Looks like he's got a lot of intangibles that you can't train.
Yeah, they've got another guy, Will Shepard, who has 19 catches for 169. So more catches, a little bit less on the yards per catch. So, and then Cam Johnson actually has 2 touchdown catches, whereas Pierce has 1. So they do have some receivers that they like to throw to. So
the thing that I looked at was like, this guy has had multiple seasons of, like, granted, I think 2021 is probably like he's a senior. He's also like a 5th year senior, I believe. So like he couldn't really go anywhere, but his whole career has been like this.
Okay.
His whole career, so 2019, he averaged 17 and a half yards per catch. 2020, he averaged almost 15 yards per catch. So that's what I looked for. It was like, how consistent has this kid been? And right now he's trending to have a career year.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to watch out for him on Saturday. But with the passing game, like we've talked about all season, like, how do you protect that secondary? And it's with the pass rush, and I expect to see that on full display on Saturday. So
you might not have much time to hit Mr. Pierce Jr. when you're running for your life. So,
yep. Okay. I didn't really have anything of note on special teams. Just basically keep it up, and I think hopefully Jackpot got back on the right track last week. And I don't know, just more of the same for that.
I'd love for us. So something that was kind of what was it? Someone mentioned it. I can't remember where it was that I saw this, but the end of the first half, whenever it was, I think it was the end of the first half. I can't remember at this point now. When we had that like 1 minute drill where we like rushed down the field, I thought it was the
That was
It
the
was
end of the
before
first
half.
half. Yes.
It was the end of the first half. That's what I thought. So we got the ball back, and we had 1 minute to kind of move the ball. I think it was less than a minute actually, but we had hardly any time to move the ball and get into field goal range to let Jack Pod kick the ball. I would love to see us in another scenario like that where we get to practice in game speed something that we may need against a team like Alabama or a team like Florida, where we need to go out, run the offense, get down, get into a field goal range, and kick a late one. I would love for us to continue to do stuff like that against these lesser teams where, hey, we're up 14-3 or whatever it was, 21-3 or whatever it was. We need to get in and score another 3 points. We need to get to field goal range. Let's go out and do it.
Yeah.
Like this is the perfect time to practice some of that stuff.
Yeah, and that's where, because I think back to like the Aaron Murray years. Like when Aaron Murray was here, it always felt like if we got the ball at the end of the half with any reasonable amount of time, like we're going to at least get a field goal. Like he could always get us into field goal range. And that was nice to see us do that on Saturday. And I still say that was completely engineered. The goal was 100% to get a field goal. The goal was not to get a touchdown. The goal was to get in the field goal range so that Jack Pod could kick a field goal. I firmly believe that. Okay, well we got some listener questions.
We got the questions. Our people love the questions. I love it.
Love the questions. Okay, Sean, Atlanta Sean. Oh, this is good. In the past 20 matchups against Georgia Tech only has one more win than Vanderbilt. Not a question, just an observation I wanted to make. So thank you, Atlanta Sean. I appreciate
it. Atlanta Sean coming in hot. We love to dunk on the nerds. So yeah,
for sure,
awesome,
for sure. Friend of the show, Tim Riley at TRileyDog on Twitter. Is there a better away game town than Nash Vegas? And he says this is a serious question. This is not a joke question.
A better? Are we talking like regular like SEC East type opponent, or are we talking like just in general?
This is the weekly when I say, "Oh my gosh, John, stop asking me to clarify someone else's question." If you're going to travel to an away game, is there a better town to go to than Nashville, in your opinion?
I enjoy I would say that. Probably going to Mississippi would probably be better, but that's just my Ole Miss.
Yep, they got the Grove and they've got a downtown area. I mean, Nashville, very different, right? Because it's an actual like big city. Not the same as like college town. I prefer the college town vibe as well. I'm with you.
Yeah,
and when I went to Nashville, I went and saw us play at Vanderbilt twice when I was in college, and I will say that like both times I did it all wrong. Like we were totally just like 100% focused on the game. Like that was it. Like I want to say like we only stayed like one night. Like we maybe drove up Friday, stayed the night, went to the game on Saturday, and like drove home after the game. Maybe I can't even remember. But we certainly didn't like do anything like cool out in Nashville at all. Like we tailgated before the game, which that's the other thing. Like it's not a good like vibe in and around the stadium because there's like no Vanderbilt fans. But as far as the city, I understand that Nashville is awesome. I haven't been back though since college, so I can't really speak to it.
I mean, that's like, that's kind of like saying like, oh yeah, like, well, all right, let's throw UNLV out there. Like, okay, let's go to Vegas. Let's go to actual Vegas. You know what I mean? Like, or, let's go to USC.
How about someone who's regularly on the,
let's go to USC and go to the Rose Bowl, or go to Notre Dame and go to Notre Dame Stadium.
Someone who is now I'm going to add clarification because you can't deal with this. Someone who is regularly on the schedule, a regular opponent.
Yeah, regular. Yeah, okay, fair. All right. If that's the case, then yeah, for sure. Because literally all the other towns suck.
So for me, I've generally had, I don't know, I've had better times like when I'm going there and like I know someone. So I've actually always, or at least in college at least, I always enjoyed the Auburn game because I had like going to Auburn because I had friends that went to Auburn and they like knew where to go. You know, like when I went to Ole Miss, I didn't really know anyone there, so I didn't really know what I was doing. I still had a good time, but
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. Like having someone to like show you around and help you know what to do factors in for me. And so like when I went to Nashville for Vandy, like I didn't know anyone at Vanderbilt.
I just look at it just based on just simple math. So all right, you run through it. You got South Carolina, sucks. You got Knoxville, sucks. You got Jacksonville, which frankly sucks, but whatever. You've got
Well, I'd rather like going to the Georgia Florida game, but that's different. I would throw that out.
Yeah,
Throw that out. Keep going. We're taking too much time on this question. I think we're done.
You're cutting me off. You're cutting me off.
Cutting you off. Ole Miss is the answer. Okay, continue. Next question. Trill Belichick, Coach Trillville. He has 3 questions. 1, ratio of Georgia fans to bachelorette parties in Nashville for the weekend. So my first thing was I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of the Nashville bachelorette party phenomenon, because apparently that is a phenomenon.
I'm definitely aware of it. I'm definitely aware of that.
Okay. I would think there would be, if we're talking individual Georgia fans to bachelorette parties, I would assume the ratio is much higher on Georgia fans to parties.
Correct.
I would think.
So now who's
it might be closer on like
now who's doing clarifications?
But if we're talking, yeah. guilty.
Jerk.
But if we're talking like bachelorette party, in total to Georgia fans, women who are at the bachelorette party and the total number of Georgia fans, it would be closer, but I'd still give the edge to Georgia fans. That's my take.
I'm giving the edge to Georgia fans. However, I have a feeling, I'm just going out on a ledge, that there's going to be a couple of bridal meltdowns when they get to Nashville and realize that the UGA is taken over.
Yeah. Who are these people barking at me and ruining my bachelorette party?
Coach Trill, are you gonna photobomb some bachelorette parties? Question.
Let's see. Okay, Coach Trill's halftime line is set at Georgia minus 21.5. Can we cover 21.5 points in the first half? Will Georgia be up by 21.5 by halftime?
Yes.
Agreed. Over. He's setting an over-under of number of different Georgia players who score at 5.5.
Different players that score. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Total? I'll take the over on that.
I'm going to take the over too because I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say every time JT Daniels throws, the first time he throws a touchdown pass, that's 2 players that just scored. I'm cheating.
That's significantly cheating.
And also, Jackpot technically scores every time he kicks an extra point or field goal. So that's if you get a JT Daniels touchdown pass to, let's say, Jermaine Burton and the extra point, that's 3 players right there. I'm taking the over. I'm cheating.
For someone that gives me a lot of shit for going into the details, you went into a lot of details on Coach Trill.
0 episodes since the curse word. 0 episodes since the curse word. Update the marker.
Sorry, Carter.
All right. Fletcher Proctor at F Proctor on Twitter. I love this one. I wanted to talk about this, and then I've been tabling it because I knew Fletcher asked this. With an inferior opponent coming up, will we see a gadget play with Jordan Davis getting a touchdown? Would you think we use any trickeration against the doors or save it against a bigger opponent?
No and no.
Okay. I don't think – here's what I was going to ask. What I was going to say was we have yet to see the jumbo formation this season. Could we see the jumbo package return? So part of it, though, is we have yet to have a goal-to-go short yardage situation this year. We haven't been first and goal from the 3 or anything close to that. All our touchdowns have been scored from further out. Well, I guess Zamir's touchdown against South Carolina, we were goal to go. So I take that back. I was wrong.
Yeah, no.
I don't think we'll see. I'm going to say Jordan Davis getting a touchdown. No. I'd love to see the return of the jumbo package, but again, I don't think this is where you do it.
For sure.
I think it'll be more vanilla. So
I think you might see something like that in a 4th down, fairly close game, SEC championship type thing.
Putting it all on the line on the jumbo package. Okay. 51-7 GATA. We now pronounce his Twitter handle correctly. What is the next home and home you would like to see the Dogs schedule? For me, it's Washington. I've always wanted to see a game there.
Ooh, this is a good question. Okay. Oh man.
Washington would be interesting for me because that's where my father-in-law went to college. He's a Husky. Um, they actually also say "Go Dogs" and they spell it DAWGS. They say that.
Yeah.
It's a cool stadium. I've been out there. I haven't been there in the fall. I have not been to a game there. The stadium is pretty cool. So I would be all for that. I I think if important things to note is some that we already have upcoming, right? So, we had already scheduled Texas, we'd already scheduled Oklahoma, although they're also coming to the SEC. Um, we have we had Ohio State. I can't remember if they're back now or not. For me, I would like to go somewhere in the Big Ten. Personally, I would like Michigan. I'd like to see Michigan.
That's fair. Yeah, Michigan would be pretty cool, although it's not as cool now. I don't know. I guess the prestige on that has kind of waned a little bit. I wouldn't
Yeah.
mind going to like Penn State and experiencing a whiteout scenario like Auburn just did. That would be
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
Um, Selfishly, I would love to go back to Notre Dame because I missed that game. So I would love to go take over Chicago again.
Yep.
Um, Also, selfishly, and I'll say this because I've actually been there a couple of times, and because my family has deep ties at this university, is the University of Indiana in Bloomington.
Okay.
Um, my my grandmother's family all went to Indiana University. I toured there, and almost like not I shouldn't say almost, but like I was encouraged to apply there. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
My great, I guess it's like my great uncle or my grandmother's. I guess I don't know how you say that. My grandmother's brother um, was the first ambassador to Israel, and he graduated from Indiana University, and so there's like a very prominent like thing about him up there. Um, but that's a really cool campus. I just remember it being really cool. Um,
Nice.
so I think Indiana would be fun just from a personal standpoint. But all those places that you mentioned, it would be cool to go play at Ohio State. I guess I don't know anything about the town, but obviously Ohio State has a lot of prestige too. Michigan would be cool. Going to the Big House, that'd be cool. I have a buddy that's a big Michigan fan, so like that would be fun to go to.
Yeah. I do like the Washington one. I like the Washington one. My concern with something like Washington is, when we went to Arizona State, and we had like a night game out there
Mm-hmm.
out west, and then you come back and it kind of shortens your week up in it. So if we could have like a bye week after going to Washington, then I'd be okay with it. But otherwise, I don't know that I like the West Coast trip just for logistics and like kids being ready to go for the next week. So that's why I was thinking, Big Ten closer on the time zone. I was factoring that in
Would
my
you want to go back to the
criteria.
Rose? Would you want to go back to the Rose Bowl and play USC?
Aren't we? Don't we have? See, this is the ones where I'm not good on the remembering what all we've scheduled because they have tended to get scheduled and canceled. At one point, we had UCLA, and I know like UCLA has come to Georgia before. Um, I don't know, man. Again, that stuff hurts you, and I think it hurt us for the national championship game. Honestly, we played. We had to go all the way out to Pasadena. Alabama just had to go to New Orleans, and then and there was a short week to come back and turn around and play the national championship game. So that's my issue. Again, if we
But
could
we're
have a
talking
bye
about
week,
regular season. We're talking about regular season, right?
I know that, but same problem, right? Like I don't want to go out to the West Coast and play USC or Washington, and then
I
have
was
to
just
come
about to
back and
say
play Auburn the next week.
you just said you wanted to go out to Washington though.
I said if we have a bye week the next week,
Oh, I got you. But you can't give the bye week because you got to have the bye week before Florida. That's the way it
so we
rolls
play
now.
them 2 weeks before Florida.
Nice, nice.
Okay. Okay. Last question from Pain Dog at C6 Pain. Kirby and Muschamp as players are morphed from their time into 2021. who does Dog Nation fall in love with more? So if you take both of them from their playing days and insert them into today's times, who would be more of a fan favorite? Muschamp the player or Kirby the player?
Wait, all right. So we're talking about the personalities of the players inserted into 2021. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So like if you take 18-year-old Will Muschamp and 18-year-old Kirby Smart, and they're both on this team, who does the player fall in love with more? Muschamp
I don't know,
or Kirby?
man. Muschamp seems like he's got a lot of good clips. He seems like he was a fun dude back then. Not that Kirby wasn't, but like I feel like that. I don't know. I just keep picturing in my head the gif of all the shimmying that Muschamp did, like the little marks, the shimmy on the sideline. Like,
yes, agreed. I think so. I think so too. Kirby, like, and Kirby was one of those players where it was like, I don't know how, but he was like always just like in like the right. I guess he's like, oh gosh, living up to his last name and being smart or whatever. And I guess that's why he became a coach. Always seemed to be in the right place at the right time. Like I don't know how he ended up with a lot of the interceptions he had. It'd be like ball randomly gets tipped and Kirby would come up with a pick. I didn't see. I don't remember Muschamp as a player as much, like actually watching him. I mean, Kirby, I totally do because my freshman year was Kirby's last year, and he was, so he was the starting safety. So I certainly remember Kirby. Muschamp. I mean, I don't really remember watching him as much, but he certainly has better gifts from his playing career. So that's why I was saying Muschamp for the same reason.
I feel like your dad should probably answer this question or something, or like my dad should answer this question. You know what I mean? Like someone that went to Georgia back in the day.
We have to ask the people. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. But I think we're both leaning Muschamp just from the gifts
for sure.
Agreed.
Unless someone out there can come up with like some awesome gifts from Kirby from back then, that would be great.
Yeah, I was trying to look for. I looked. I mean, we have one gift from the podcast from the Peach Bowl, my freshman year, his senior year. That's the only one I had. So I have not seen anything anywhere near like the Jimmy.
Is there a rage stroke out there from back then? That'd be awesome.
I don't think so. I think that was something that came along later in life. All right, that was it for the listener questions. I've got one before we get into the score prediction. One thing I did want to see, who do you think will be the leading rusher in this game?
Who did I think would be the leading rusher against Vandy?
Yes,
Zamir White.
Well, that's boring because that's who I think it'll be too. So okay, shocking, we agree. Okay, I'm not going to refresh because I pulled up all this stuff earlier. So as of right now, Georgia is favored by 34.5 points, and the over/under is at 51.5 points scored. As we've been talking through this, I kind of get the feeling you're going to pick Georgia to win. So I can go first if you want because I kind of thought it through a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
I have to make fun of myself again because last week, and this is why I said I'm not going to refresh, because last week I had like done this ahead of time, and then when I refreshed, the line had moved, or the over and under had moved a little bit, and so I said that I was going to take the over and Georgia covering, and I had Georgia covering, but my over under was a push based on the score I predicted. So I realized that when I was editing the episode. But so this one, I'm going to take Georgia. I don't think we'll hit the weather, unfortunately. But I do think we will get over 100. I'm going to take Georgia 51-6.
51-6.
Yep.
So, okay.
And I'm going to take the over. The over is 51.5 points. So I'm going to have my score and my over-under match up. I'm not going to hedge my bets.
Okay, so I don't think that we hit the over. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to go 45-3.
Okay. Nice. We're pretty close there. You're even further away from the weather, though, unfortunately. But that's okay.
I just think that they're going to grind it out late, but that's just me.
Yeah, kind of get up and sit on it.
They're
Right.
going to revert.
Get the lead and sit on it. Kind of deal.
Well, you got a quarterback that's coming off an injury. I mean, unless they throw someone out there like Stetson and let him run the offense, or throw someone like Brock out there and let him run the offense, maybe they start putting points on, but I just don't see it happening. So,
okay. No worries. So, so now I will actually have the first game that I am watching on TV because last minute I went last week. So that'll be interesting, and I'm actually gonna I think have to catch the second half on the radio because we've got soccer. Lily's got soccer. I'll be at home just with Lily. Kim will be in Atlanta this weekend. Kim is taking Ella to see Hamilton in Atlanta on Saturday.
oh,
So.
That's a long way to go. I don't even want to get into it with you on that one.
I do not. Your lack of love of Hamilton is baffling to me. So we're going to move on. So, but you're also going to be out of town.
I have friends that were super excited about it that said the same thing that I said, but I digress.
We're not getting into it. We're not getting into it. You're wrong. You are wrong, and I am right. So, but you're going to be at Hilton Head. So you'll be watching the game in Hilton Head again, right?
I am. Believe it or not, it is already fall break for Cobb County. So everybody's going to be vacating the town, and we're heading to Hilton Head. So
I remember last year you were like texting me because you were having difficulty finding the first game, but I think that was on SEC Network. So you should be good to go with ESPN. Have we confirmed that your lodging has ESPN?
Yes, they definitely have ESPN because it's the same place we stayed last time.
Awesome.
It was the SEC network that threw me for a loop.
Right. I remember there was some frantic texting right before kickoff trying to find the game last year.
I don't remember what we ended up doing. I think I ended up like signing up for a free trial of something.
Too funny. All right. Well, enjoy the vacation. We don't have fall break here. We don't get that. Although we start school later than you guys do, so I guess that's fine.
Do we have any? Do we have any more? Are we doing reviews anymore?
Oh, yes, we do have reviews. No, thank you for the reminder. I meant to put that in there, so we can read the reviews and then we'll close out.
As I recall, we have some pretty awesome reviews.
Okay. We have 2 new reviews. So the first one comes from Hammy Pepep. It says 5-star review, obviously. Best UGA podcast out there. Thank you. And then the review is simply Go Dogs. I like it. Short, simple, to the point. Thank you, Hammy. And I do wonder if that's Hambone. Could be Hambone Huggins. Not sure. We'll have to find out. Let us know. And then the second review comes from GA Pats fan, 5 stars. Subject says, hunker down, you hairy Kirby's. If you could make auditory UGA football porn, this would be it. Dedicated to the legendary Larry Munson. This podcast absolutely delivers every episode. Jim and John work very well together and have intelligent and logical takes that show not all UGA fans are barbaric rednecks still screaming Tyler Simmons was onside, even though he was. Love these guys as people, and I know that Larry is looking down from heaven, lighting a cigar, and listening to this podcast, sitting next to other Georgia legends up there like Bob McWhorter, Charles Hurdy, Jesus Christ, and Frank Sickwich. Great podcast, Coach Trilbill.
Amen.
That's a way to close out an episode. Thank you, Coach Trilbill.
That'll play.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for the reminder of that. I totally forgot that. Now I'm glad that I texted you a screenshot of that review. that helps remember. Cool. Well, like I said, enjoy the vacation. Enjoy Hilton Head, and hopefully everything goes smooth for watching the game. You gotta hopefully have a nice relaxing game to watch, and then you can hit the beach afterwards.
I'm hoping so. Yeah, we'll definitely be hitting the beach for sure.
Nice.
Go Dogs!
Go Dogs!